Hey there. Tonight, we're stepping back into a world where daily survival wasn't just about harsh weather or heavy labor, but about your place in a society that barely saw you. This isn't a tale of queens or noble ladies in velvet halls. This is about ordinary women in tiny villages, those whose names were never written down, but who carried the weight of the world on their shoulders. So settle in, dim the lights, and let's walk in their footsteps, through mud, through silence, and through lives that history almost forgot.
Your name isn't written anywhere. Not on a church ledger, not in a record book, not even on the slip of wood you keep above the hearth. You're 15, maybe 16, but no one's really counting. You woke before the sky lit, same as yesterday, and the day before that, because the bread doesn't knead itself, and your mother's hands don't work like they used to. The air inside the cottage is stale, damp. You blink through smoke drifting from the low fire, already burning too low for the dough you've been preparing in silence. It clings to your arms, warm and rough, flecked with ash from the last batch that caught fire. You're not alone in the house, but no one speaks. Your father hasn't said a word to you in days, not since your bleeding started again. It unsettles him, reminds you you're not a girl anymore. Your brother still sleeps. Your mother coughs from her mat in the corner. You press your knuckles into the dough until it stops sticking to the table. You've done this so many times, your arms move without thought. And still, it never gets easier. Your back already aches. Your day hasn't even started. By the time the sun is up, you're outside. The water needs fetching. Not from a well, from the stream beyond the brambles, where the men don't like to go because it stinks of the tannery runoff. You carry the pail anyway, balanced on one hip. The strap bites into your collarbone. On your way there, a man whistles. You don't look. You don't dare look. Because if you do, and he speaks, and someone sees, you will be the one whispered about. And in a village this small, whispers grow fangs. At the stream, the water is cloudy. Bits of bark and something dark, blood from a butchered goat maybe, float on the surface. You cup it with your hand first, let it settle, then fill the bucket. A woman from 3 huts down passes you. She doesn't greet you. She never has. Her husband was caught with the shepherd's daughter last year. Everyone still remembers. Everyone also remembers that she was the one beaten. That's just how things are. You carry your water home in silence. Your mother has risen. She's trying to boil beans, but the pot is too heavy. You take over. You don't ask. You never do. There's cloth to mend, a chicken to pluck, lice to pull from your little brother's hair. You've already learned to kill the rats in the cellar with a swift snap of your broom handle. You learned it from your grandmother before she stopped waking up. You buried her 2 winters ago. You didn't cry. Tears are for when someone sees you. You're not sure anyone does. By nightfall, your arms are raw from scrubbing the floor with lye soap. The cottage smells of meat and wood smoke. Your father returns. He says nothing, just eats. You eat last, not because you're polite, because that's what women do. You lie down beside your mother on a mattress stuffed with rushes and old hair. She turns her face toward the wall. You turn yours toward the ceiling. You think about what tomorrow will be. It will be this. Exactly this. Again and again and again.
The rooster crows, but you're already up. You never sleep deeply anymore. The mattress is lumpy and damp with the sweat of 4 bodies. The roof leaks sometimes. You wake shivering, or worse, dreaming of things you can't explain. Dreams of running, of burning, of falling into deep water and never surfacing. Your mother says to forget dreams. She says dreams are for girls who don't have real work to do. You believe her. You always have. Today, your uncle comes to visit. You know what that means. He's brought his eldest son. You saw it in the way your father stood straighter when the knock came. You saw it in your mother's clenched jaw, her hands drying on her apron, never still. You're told to serve ale, even though you hate the way your cousin looks at you, like he already owns you. He has pig's eyes, wet and flat. You keep your eyes low and your mouth shut. He tells a story about a cart accident, laughing so hard he spits. You pretend to laugh too. Your father watches you, approves. Later, your mother pulls you aside while hanging clothes behind the house. He's a good worker, she says. You don't answer. He's not a drunk. He'll take care of you. You twist the wet cloth in your hands. It drips between your fingers like blood. He's your cousin. He's only your cousin a little, she says. You think of the pigs he raises, the way their waste runs behind their hut, flies thick in the summer. You think of his eyes. You think of your body under his. You feel your throat tighten. And then you say, yes, mother, because there is no no here, not for you. You try to forget about it. You throw yourself into work. That afternoon, the midwife stops by. She asks about your mother's lungs. She eyes your body and smiles in a way that makes your stomach twist. Getting ready, eh? She says. Pretty soon you'll be helping with births. You feel your blood go cold. Not because of the birth, because of what comes before. You're not ready. You'll never be. In the evening, you walk to the edge of the woods to gather kindling. You take longer than you should. The trees are quiet. No one speaks here. You wonder, just for a moment, what would happen if you kept walking? If you dropped the bundle of sticks and walked into the forest and never came back? You picture it. Your dress catching on branches. Your name unspoken. Your absence forgotten. But you return. Of course you do. Because your father would send your brother to fetch you. Because the food won't cook itself. Because the marriage will be next week. And because you are not a girl who gets to disappear. That night, you stare at the fire until your eyes sting. Your mother hums an old song, one her mother taught her. You realize it's the only sound of comfort in this house. So you hum too, softly, just enough to remember that you still have a voice, even if no one listens to it. Yet.
You bleed again. Not much, just enough to stain the rag you keep hidden beneath the floorboards. You don't tell your mother. She'd only nod, maybe whisper a prayer. Another sign your body is obeying the rhythm laid out for you. You feel no joy in it, only resignation. It's not that you fear childbirth. You've seen calves born in the fields. You've watched your aunt scream for hours before the baby came out blue and still. You know what waits. What you fear is everything that comes before. The other girls whisper about herbs, leaves that make the bleeding stop, roots that can end a pregnancy before it begins.
but they never say where to find them. Only the old woman in the woods would know, and no one dares speak her name too loudly. Some say she was a nun, once. Others say she's a demon. Your grandmother called her wise, and your grandmother never lied. You work faster these days, harder. Your father seems pleased, your mother less so. She watches you when you aren't looking, as if trying to memorize your face. You realize she's waiting for the moment you leave, when your husband takes you, and she knows deep down that you will become someone she doesn't recognize anymore. That's what marriage does. It changes the inside, not just the outside. The pig's eyes return. He brings a basket of beans and a wooden ring. You say thank you. You wear it on your finger for the rest of the day because your father insists. You take it off that night and tuck it into your pocket, beneath the cloth with your blood. The wood smells of smoke and pig fat. You hope it burns someday. You dream of walking into the river, not drowning, just floating, farther and farther downstream, until the village disappears behind the trees. You wake with your heart pounding, your hands clenched, your body stiff with cold. No one notices. They rarely do. That day, the cow gets sick. You're sent to the herb woman after all. Not for yourself, but for the beast. Your mother hands you a coin, the only one you've seen in months. Don't look her in the eye, she warns. Don't ask questions. You nod, but deep down, your mind burns with questions. The woods are quiet. The kind of quiet that presses against your skull. The woman's hut is buried in vines and moss, nearly invisible if you didn't know where to look. She's older than you expected. Eyes like broken glass, fingers stained dark with herbs and ash. She speaks before you do. Not for the cow, is it? You freeze. She smiles, a slow, knowing thing. You've got the same look your grandmother had, that ache behind the ribs, that scream stuck behind the teeth. You don't answer, but you don't deny it either. She gives you a bundle of leaves. Tell your father it's for the cow. Boil it, 3 nights. Then, after a pause, she adds another packet. Tell no one about this one. Not your mother, not even the trees. You nod, because you understand now. There are things only women carry. Secrets folded into cloth, rage hidden in silence, power passed hand to hand in shadow. You leave without a word, but for the first time you feel not free, not yet, but awake.
You boil the herbs just as she told you. 3 nights for the cow. You watch the steam curl into the rafters, thick and bitter, and you almost believe the smoke carries something more than just medicine. The cow lives. Your father is pleased. He gives you half a smile and says, maybe you'll make a good wife after all. You nod, because that's what he wants, because that's what they all want. But deep down, you hold the second bundle tighter, the one you didn't show, the one wrapped in old cloth, smelling of dry earth and iron, the one meant not for healing, but for survival. Your wedding draws closer. The church is being swept. The priest has been paid with chickens and eggs. You're told to be grateful. Some girls don't even get a priest. Some were given away behind barns with a handshake and a nod. You will be married in daylight, with bread and ale and 3 songs afterward. You practice the words in your head. I do. I will. I'm his now. They sound like shackles. On the morning of your final fitting, your mother braids your hair in silence. Each pull is gentle, each twist careful, but you feel the weight in her hands, the weight of knowing. She's done this before. She was once you. She knows what comes next. But she doesn't say it. Instead, she hums that old melody again, and you close your eyes. You memorize the sound, just in case it's the last thing of hers you ever carry with you. That evening you see him, your cousin, your soon-to-be husband. He's sharpening a knife. Not for you, not yet, just for the pig. But the way he tests its edge on his thumb makes your stomach turn. He catches you watching and winks. You look away, because what's worse than violence is the permission behind it. And you know he's been given that, by everyone. That night the dreams return, but they're different now. You're not drowning, you're running, fast, barefoot, through wet leaves and dark pines. You don't look back. You don't have to, because you know what follows you. Not a man, not even a beast, but a promise. One you never made, but were born into. You wake with the taste of ash in your mouth, and you know it's time. You open the hidden packet. It contains more than herbs. A single hairpin made of bone, a tiny scrap of parchment with ink you can barely read, and powder. Dark, bitter powder. You don't know if it will kill or cure. The woman never said. Maybe that's the point. The wedding is in 2 days. The gown is ready. The bread is rising. Your father sleeps soundly now, proud and full of plans. Your mother stays up later than she used to, mending an old shawl she insists you take with you. Your brother, too young to understand, draws pictures in the dirt of oxen and saints. And you sit by the fire, silent, still, deciding. Because now you have a choice. Maybe not a good one, maybe not a clean one, but yours. And for the first time, the silence in your chest feels like armor, not prison.
Morning breaks in streaks of gray. The kind of sky that doesn't bless or curse, just watches. You wash your face in cold water, as always. You comb your hair with fingers stiff from sleep. Your mother places the bridal shift in your arms like a folded prayer. "Wear this one the night before," she says softly, "so the saints will see you clean." You nod, but you don't believe the saints are watching. If they were, they've long since turned their faces away. That evening, the house smells of barley stew and new bread. Neighbors pass through the door like moths to flame, bringing wine, herbs, and thin compliments. "Lucky girl," one of them says, brushing your cheek. "Strong shoulders on that boy," another murmurs approvingly. You pretend to smile, but your ribs feel like hollowed reeds. You stay quiet, the way you were taught, because good girls don't shout. They wait, they endure, they belong. Later, you sit alone outside, the veil in your lap. It's thin, yellowed, edged with the lace your grandmother stitched before her hands gave out. You trace it with your thumb, remembering how her voice used to cut through silence like a blade. "You can survive anything," she once said, binding your scraped knee. "But survival ain't living." You didn't understand then. You do now. The packet is still hidden, tucked inside your braid, pressed close to your scalp. If anyone looked, they'd see nothing but a bride. But you know what waits inside that cloth. You still don't know exactly what it does, only that it changes things. And change, right now, is a kind of freedom. The house grows quiet by moonrise. Your father snores in rhythm with the creak of the windmill. Your mother has fallen asleep in her chair, half knitting, half dreaming. You slip past them without a sound. Outside, the grass is damp with dew.
The stars blur slightly, like they're weeping too. You walk to the well, the same one your great-aunt threw her wedding ring into decades ago. They say it still sings on quiet nights. You listen. Nothing but the wind. You unwrap the packet. It smells like earth and rusted iron. The powder sits in your palm, darker than the night around you. You think of all the ways you could use it. A cup of tea, the wedding feast, your own tongue, if it comes to that. But you also think of the girl you used to be, the one who danced barefoot after the first rain, the one who named all the crows by the barn. You wonder if she's still in there, buried beneath all the silence and bruises. You hope she is, because if she is, maybe she can still get out. You return to your room, slide the veil over your head, and for the first time, it doesn't feel like a funeral shroud. It feels like a disguise, a temporary one. Because tomorrow, they will try to make you his. But they've forgotten something. A woman is not clay, not straw, not something to be carved and set and called finished. You are fire tucked inside flesh, and fire waits.
Dawn comes slow and thick, the kind of morning that presses down on the village like a held breath. Your mother wakes you before the rooster. She lights the fire, brushes your hair, and says, "Don't cry. It'll smear the rouge." You hadn't even noticed the tears. But you obey, because that's what good daughters do. And you are still playing the part. For now. Your gown smells faintly of lavender and wood smoke. It itches. It always itched. You've worn it once before, the day of your blessing, when the priest dipped his fingers in oil and marked your brow. He said, "She shall obey in all things, and be as soft earth beneath her husband's feet." You were 11. Even then, the words didn't sit right in your chest. Now, they burn. The village begins to stir. Bread is sliced, herbs scattered, wine uncorked. Your father greets the neighbors with pride so wide it nearly splits him open. "My girl," he says, "soon a woman in full." You want to ask him what that means. What full looks like to a man who never listened to what wasn't spoken aloud. But there's no use. Men don't hear what they don't wish to, especially when it weeps through silk. You stand by the door of the chapel. Your cousin waits at the altar, jaw clenched, eyes full of ownership. He looks at you like something already purchased, like a field with good soil, like he can't wait to dig his hands into you and leave roots that don't belong. You grip your skirt. The powder still rests beneath your bodice, heavy, warm, a second spine. The priest begins the rites. He talks of unity, of duty, of obedience. He says nothing of love. The crowd listens. They nod, they smile, they whisper. A few cast glances at your cousin's hands, calloused, scarred, red from the forge. None of them look at yours, soft, still, but steady. He lifts the veil. He sees your eyes, and for a moment, his smile falters. There's something in you that wasn't there before. Not fear, not surrender, calculation. When the priest says, "If any here no cause why this union should not be," you feel the words catch like flint inside you. But no one speaks.
No one ever does. Silence is the safest guest at every wedding. And so the vow begins. You open your mouth, but not to repeat. Not yet. You lean forward, close enough to let him smell the wild mint on your breath. And then, very gently, you place your hand over his and press the smallest pinch of the powder into his palm. It isn't poison. Not the killing kind, at least. You wouldn't waste it here. No. This is a test. A flicker of control. A single moment where you decide what changes and what doesn't. He blinks, confused. The priest clears his throat. You speak now. Clear, calm. I will, when I am free. The words hang like smoke. The chapel stills, but you don't look away. You leave the rest behind. The veil, the prayers, the wine, all of it. You walk into the open air, into the wind, into whatever comes next. Not as a bride, not as a girl, but as something else. Something that can't be blessed, bought, or buried. Not anymore.
You don't run. Running is what they expect. Skirts hitched, hair wild, shame trailing behind you like a loose thread. You walk. Slow. Measured. Unapologetic. Each step presses the past deeper into the soil behind you. The field gates creak as you pass. The hens scatter, and someone's dog whines at your back. But no one follows. Not yet. Because no one knows what to call you now. Not a bride. Not a daughter. Just a girl walking away with fire in her ribs and a packet of bitter herbs stitched to her breast. The forest waits where the path ends. Not deep. Not yet. But shadowed. Thick with the smell of moss and the weight of watching things. You've been here before. As a child, gathering mushrooms. As a girl, weeping into her apron. But today, the trees feel different. Like they know. Like they've been waiting. You cross the line where farmland turns to wild. It's like stepping out of someone else's story. The air grows colder, the birds louder. No more smoke on the wind, no more iron in your mouth. Only dirt and roots, and the sound of your own heartbeat in your ears. You're not alone. Not entirely. She finds you near the stream. An old woman, bones sharp beneath her skin, eyes pale as milk. She doesn't ask who you are. Just looks once, long and slow, then says, "You left him." It's not a question. You nod. She nods back. Good. Her home isn't a home. Not really. It's a leaning frame of branches and skins, part hut, part animal den. There's no bed, just a pile of furs, some tools, a rusted kettle over cold coals. She hands you a cup of something sharp, says nothing as you drink. Your throat burns. You don't cough. She watches for that. I was someone's wife too, she mutters later, breaking dry sticks for the fire. Didn't take. You don't ask what happened. She wouldn't answer anyway. But you understand.
There's a language between women like you, made of glances and silences and bruises no one sees. It says, "You survived. Now what?" You sleep that night curled near the flames. Not comfortable, not safe, but free. The packet of powder is now buried beneath the tree behind her hut. A promise you don't need to keep anymore. You found something better than escape. You found pause. And for now, that's enough. Morning comes, soft and colorless. The woman gives you bread that tastes of ash and old time. Then she points. There's a path behind the hill. Not on any map. It'll take you where you need to go. You blink. Where is that? She shrugs. Somewhere no one owns you. You thank her. Not with words, but with the last of your ribbon left on the doorpost, like a talisman. She'll understand. Women like her always do. And so you walk. Again. No veil, no vows, just earth beneath your feet, sky above, and a path that bends away from everything they built to keep you tame. Where it leads doesn't matter yet. Only that it does, and that it's yours.
The path winds like it doesn't trust straight lines. Up through narrow ridges where wind claws at your cloak, down through thickets heavy with bramble and thorn. Every step pulls you further from the girl they tried to shape and closer to something raw and unfinished. Something honest. Your legs ache, your feet blister, but you don't stop. Not until you see the smoke. Not black, not angry, just pale threads rising through the trees, as if the forest itself were breathing. There's something ahead, and it isn't made for men. You crest a ridge and see it. A scattering of homes tucked in a hollow between hills and river. No walls, no gates, no banners flying above longhouses. Just rooftops patched with moss, gardens full of herbs, and a single goat standing guard like it owns the place. It smells like rosemary, soil, and soup. It smells like safety. A woman spots you first. She's sharpening a blade, a long one, and doesn't flinch when your eyes meet. She doesn't call out, doesn't ask your name, just whistles once, soft and low. Soon, others appear. From behind doors, from beneath arbors, from the trees even. All women, all quiet, all watching. You try to speak, but your voice fails you. Not from fear, from something older, something deeper. A grief that suddenly remembers how to breathe. One of them steps forward. An elder, bent but steady. She looks at you like she already knows every bruise you've hidden and every truth you've swallowed. Hungry? She asks. You nod, and just like that, you are inside. The house is warm, not just from the hearth, but from the way no one looks through you. You're fed without being questioned. Soup, dark bread, honeyed roots. You eat until the shaking stops. Then you sleep. For the first time in what feels like your whole life. Later, they show you the rules. Not written, just spoken.
No masters, no sermons, no men. Here, names are earned, not given. Pain is shared, not hoarded. And if you break bread with someone, you protect them. Always. You ask what this place is. A woman with soot on her cheeks laughs. We call it Hollow Vale because it was empty once until we filled it. Another adds, some call it a coven, others a haven. Doesn't matter. It's ours. You don't ask to stay. They don't offer. It's understood. You start by sweeping the floors of the medicine hut, then sorting herbs, then learning how to set a broken bone, how to brew fever root, how to kill a man with a single thumb's pressure if you had to, just in case. They don't talk much about the lives they left behind, but the scars speak louder than words. A stitched lip here, a hand that won't fully close, eyes that flinch when the wind whistles like a whip. You were not alone. You were never alone. You just hadn't arrived yet. You learn names slowly, not their old ones, their true ones. Ash, Mare, Briar, Thorn. And one night, beside the fire, they ask what yours will be. You look into the flames, think of all the things they tried to make you, and all the things you refused to become. Then you say, without hesitation, Flint. And they nod, because it fits, because you strike sparks now, and soon you will be fire.
The name settles on you like a second skin, not stitched by fathers, nor chosen by husbands. Flint, hard, unyielding, ready to spark. It fits your jaw now when you speak. It sits steady in your spine when you walk. When someone calls it, you answer, not with fear, not with shame, but with the quiet certainty of someone who survived becoming herself. And Hollow Vale accepts it, accepts you. Each day begins with smoke, not of war, not of burning villages, just the soft curl from hearths being lit, clay kettles warmed, poultices stirred. There's a rhythm here, a pulse. You learn to rise before the sun, your fingers already tracing salves and measuring roots by weight and instinct. You are no longer a visitor. You are becoming useful. And in Hollow Vale, that means you belong. But peace, even here, is not without memory. You learn to see it in the way ash flinches at loud crows overhead, how Mare sharpens her knives when it rains, how Briar never sleeps with her back to a door. They were broken once, or nearly, and they've built something whole from the shards. You are part of that now. You will defend it. Your first test comes without warning. Not swords, not fire. A child, fevered and limp, carried in by Thorn with urgency in her eyes and mud up to her knees. The girl's lips are cracked, her breath shallow. Too many days lost to bad water and worse luck. You freeze. Then remember, you are flint. So you move. You grind elder bark and willow. You mash juniper and steep comfrey. You cool cloth and whisper soft nonsense to keep the child tethered. The others watch, not with doubt, but with hope. She survives the night. By morning, she opens her eyes. And when she reaches for someone, it's you she finds. After that, something shifts. You are no longer just the girl who fled. You are the woman who stayed, who stood, who healed. One night, beside the river, Briar leans close and says, "There's a storm coming." You nod. You felt it too. A change in the wind, a wrongness in the air. Too many merchants whispering of missing wives, too many cloaked riders taking the long way through the woods. Someone is looking. Someone is angry. They hold a meeting under the elder tree. No one raises voices, no one panics. They plan. Not for battle, but for survival. Caches are buried, paths marked, escape routes whispered from ear to trusted ear. No one here believes in permanent safety, but they believe in each other. That night, you sharpen a blade for the first time in weeks. Not out of fear, but readiness. Because flint isn't a name for hiding. It's a name for striking when the dark gets too bold. You sit in the doorway of your hut, the stars watching like distant gods, and you whisper not a prayer, but a promise. Let them come. Not because you want war, but because this time you're not alone, and you will never burn quietly again.
Days fold into each other, each dawn bringing whispers, soft as the moss beneath your feet, sharp as the flint in your hand. The men who pass through Hollow Vale are fewer now, eyes wary and voices clipped. They don't linger. The woods seem to swallow their footsteps as quickly as they arrive. But you know better. Danger never walks openly, it creeps. One evening, as the sun slips behind ragged hills, Ash approaches you with a look sharpened by worry. "They've found the old trail," she says. Your pulse tightens. The old trail is what your people call the forgotten paths through the dense forest, the routes your ancestors used to vanish when invaders came knocking. Now, those paths are no longer secret. "They'll try to flush us out," Ash warns. "Take women, take children." You feel the weight of that truth settle like cold stone in your chest. It's no longer about surviving the cold nights or the cruel seasons. It's about outlasting the cruelty of men who see women as spoil to be claimed. That night, you gather with Briar, Mare, Thorn, and Ash. Your faces are lit only by flickering firelight and the determination that burns within. You lay plans, not of open battle, but of resistance. Messages woven in the cracks of bark, traps hidden beneath fallen leaves, silent signals that only you understand. For the first time, you teach others how to sharpen more than blades. You teach them to sharpen their minds, to watch, to listen, to become ghosts when hunted. The night before the riders arrive, the village feels like it holds its breath. You stand at the edge of the woods, flint in hand, ready to strike. Because this time, it's not just your life. It's every woman's life who dared to say no. As the moon rises high, the first sounds come, not of hoofbeats, but of resolve. The fight for Hollow Vale is beginning, and this time you will burn, not silently, but blazing bright enough to scare away the dark. The riders come just as the first pale light touches the treetops. Their armor clinks, dull and heavy, breaking the morning's quiet like a warning bell.
You watch from the shadows, every muscle taut, every breath steady. They do not know what waits for them. Hollowvale is no longer a village. It's a fortress made of whispered secrets and sharpened wills. The first rider steps forward, a cruel smile curling beneath a scarred cheek. He calls out, voice rough and mocking, "Women, come out. No need for blood today." You don't answer. Instead, you let the forest do what it does best. A sudden rustle, a sharp snap, and one horse stumbles, hooves tangling in a hidden snare. Chaos blooms. From every hut, every thicket, women emerge, not as prey, but as hunters. Briar swings her axe with practiced grace. Mare's knives flash like lightning, and Ash's arrows find their marks. You move like fire, flint striking stone. Every strike, every step is purpose. The riders falter, unprepared for a fight that is not theirs to win. The battle is swift, brutal, and merciless. By noon, the invaders retreat, broken and bewildered. Hollowvale stands, but victory tastes bitter. The village is scarred, homes burned, trust tested. Yet, in the glow of dying embers, something else burns brighter: hope. You, Flint, have become more than a name. You are a spark, a beacon, a promise that even in the darkest nights, women can rise, and that their fire will never be tamed again.
The smoke from the battle still curls in the air, heavy and thick, mixing with the scent of wet earth and pine. You move through Hollowvale like a shadow, checking on the wounded, steadying trembling hands, offering quiet words where loud ones would only break. Ash's arm is bandaged tight, but her eyes burn with defiance. Briar's hut smokes where the fire caught, but she's already planning repairs, her voice steady despite the loss. You sit beside Mare, who stares at her knives as if seeing ghosts in their blades. "This isn't over," she says softly. "No," you agree, "but it's a beginning." The village gathers at the elder tree once more. This time, the meeting is not about fleeing. It's about building. Walls, yes, but also alliances. You propose sending riders, not to run, but to warn others, to connect with hidden villages and wandering bands, to build a network of strength, of women who refuse to be prey. Tova, who once whispered fears, now stands beside you, her voice clear and firm. We fight not just for Hollowvale, but for all of us. Plans stretch late into the night, maps drawn in dirt, routes marked with stones, names shared in quiet urgency. You think of the girl you saved, now strong and curious, running among the survivors. You think of the nights spent alone in the dark, afraid, and you realize something. Survival is not just about hiding. It's about standing together. It's about being fire, unyielding. And you are ready, because this time the story is yours to write.
Days pass, but the tension never lifts. You see it in the way the forest seems to hold its breath, in the sharp glances cast toward the tree line, in the hushed voices trading rumors of riders spotted far beyond the valley. The network grows. Riders slip through shadows, carrying messages folded small, sealed with wax, pressed with the mark of the elder tree. You've taken to training with briar and mare, learning to handle blades with purpose, to move silently through the underbrush. It's not just about healing anymore. It's about being ready. One evening, as the sun sinks behind the hills, a rider arrives at the edge of Hollow Vale. Her cloak is torn, face smeared with dirt, eyes wild but determined. She brings news. Nearby villages have fallen. Riders came with fire and steel. No mercy shown. The storm isn't just coming, it's here. The women of Hollow Vale gather again under the elder tree. Fear dances in their eyes, but so does something sharper, resolve. You look around at faces both new and familiar. This is no longer a quiet village of survivors. It is a crucible, and you, Flint, are its spark.
The dawn breaks heavy with mist. You stand alongside Briar, Mare, and the others, weapons hidden beneath rough cloaks. Every shadow feels like a threat. Every bird's call is a warning. The riders come first as whispers, silent shapes slipping through the trees like ghosts. But then the horns sound, low and brutal. The attack is swift. Flames lick the edges of thatch roofs. Shouts split the morning air. You move without hesitation. Not a girl running anymore, but Flint. You lead with a blade, sharp and sure. You strike at those who seek to burn what you hold dear. The fight is chaos, a blur of mud, steel, and smoke, but something deeper drives you. Not just survival, but justice. You see Ash fighting with a fury you never thought possible, her flinches replaced by fierce blows. Mare's knives flash like lightning. Briar covers the rear, her arrows finding their marks with deadly grace. You fall back to the heart of the village, helping carry the wounded, your hands steady despite the horror. Hours pass like minutes. When the dust settles, Hollow Vale stands, broken but unbowed, and you know the storm is far from over.
The air hangs heavy with smoke and sorrow. Bodies lay still beneath the ash-streaked sky, some familiar faces twisted in pain, others strangers whose names you will never know. The village square, once a place of laughter and life, now feels like a graveyard. You kneel beside a fallen friend, the weight of loss settling deep in your chest. But there's no time to grieve fully. The enemy will return, and when they do, you will be ready. You gather the survivors, your voice steady but fierce. We fight not just for ourselves, but for those who cannot, for the women, the children, the future. They nod. Eyes burn with a mixture of fear and determination. Together, you begin rebuilding, not just homes, but hope. Every nail hammered, every stone set is an act of defiance. You teach the others to fight, to stand, not with the hope that violence will end, but with the certainty that you will not be broken. In the quiet moments, when the night presses in,
You whisper a vow to yourself. This village will live. This village will rise. Because Flint is no longer just a name. It is a legacy, a promise carved into the bones of Hollowvale. And you will carry it, no matter the cost.
Weeks pass like slow breaths, the wounds of Hollowvale healing but never forgetting. The forest watches, ever silent, its ancient eyes flickering with secrets. Strange signs begin to appear, twisted symbols carved into bark, missing livestock, whispers on the wind. You and the others patrol the woods, senses sharpened, hands never far from weapons. One evening, near the river bend, you spot movement, a shadow slipping between trees. Not a stranger. Not quite. A familiar figure cloaked in night. It's Mare. Her eyes hold a storm you've never seen before. She steps forward, voice barely a whisper. They're coming back. Different this time. The news spreads like wildfire. No longer mere raiders, but something darker, more cunning. They come with fire and steel, but also with lies and fear. You realize survival won't come from strength alone. It will come from unity, from trust, from a fire inside that refuses to be snuffed out. The night deepens, but you stand tall beneath the stars. Because Flint is no fleeting flame. It is the spark that will ignite a revolution.
The morning after Mare's warning, Hollowvale awakens to an uneasy calm. Men and women move with purpose, mending fences, sharpening blades, filling pouches with herbs and stones. You join the gathering at the elder tree, where thorn and briar stand flanking the cracked bark, their faces grim but resolute. Plans are whispered and arguments hushed. Everyone knows what's coming, though none speak it aloud. You feel the weight of Flint in your hands, a blade heavy with promise and history. As the sun sets, the village prepares. Lanterns are lit and placed in windows, not for celebration, but as signals. Paths once forgotten are dusted off, marked again with chalk and bone. Children are tucked away deep in the woods, hidden from prying eyes. And through it all, you hold your ground. Because this is more than survival now. This is a fight for Hollowvale's soul. The wind carries a chill, but your fire burns steady. You whisper to yourself, "Let them come. We are ready." Night falls heavy and thick, the forest around Hollowvale swallowing light and sound. You stand watch at the village's edge, every sense stretched thin like a bowstring. The soft crackle of dry leaves underfoot, a breath caught too sharply, a twig snapped, each noise a potential threat. In the distance, shadows move, silent and deliberate. You catch glimpses of figures cloaked in black, faces hidden beneath hoods, eyes glinting cold in the moonlight. They come not with trumpets or battle cries, but with knives and whispered threats. Hollowvale's quiet peace shatters. The first scream cuts through the night, raw and terrified. You grip Flint tighter. Tonight there will be no hiding, no running, only fight. And you are ready.
The black-cloaked figures slip through the trees like smoke, moving fast and sure. They come for the unguarded huts, for the weak and the sleeping. You see one reach for Mare's door, a soft gasp, the flash of steel. Mare is faster. No, she's fiercer. A blade meets blade with a clang sharp enough to echo through the woods. You rush forward, Flint raised high, heart pounding like war drums.
The air tastes of sweat, fear, and iron. Other villagers stir, grabbing whatever weapons they can find, knives, axes, even heavy sticks. It's chaos, but in the chaos, you find focus. A shadow lunges at you. You dodge, parry, and strike back. Your blade bites into flesh. A grunt. Then, silence. Behind you, Ash's voice rises in a fierce war cry. You feel the surge, the raw pulse of fight or flight turned fight. This is what it means to survive. No gentle songs, no whispered prayers, just the clash of steel, the grit of dirt underfoot, and the will to stand. You look around. Hollow Vale is bleeding, but it is not broken. Not yet.
Dawn breaks with a cruel, cold light. Smoke still curls from the scorched remnants of 2 huts. The forest is eerily silent, no bird song, no rustling leaves. Only the groans of the wounded and whispered prayers fill the air. You move among your people, checking wounds, offering what comfort you can. Mare's arm is bleeding, but she's alive. Ash's eyes are wild, but burning with defiance. Briar tends to a child with fever, her hands steady despite the chaos. You feel the weight of every life depending on you, the healer, the protector, the fire that won't be snuffed. In the village clearing, the council gathers. Voices are low, but their meaning is clear. They want to strike back. Not recklessly, not out of anger, but to send a message that Hollow Vale won't be easy prey. You listen, heart pounding, knowing the world outside these woods is cruel. But here, among these broken, fierce souls, you are home. You vow silently, no more running, no more hiding. You will fight, because you are Flint, and Flint doesn't break.
Night falls like a shroud over Hollow Vale. The moon hides behind heavy clouds, casting the woods in a near darkness that suits your plans. You and the others move silently, shadows among shadows, hearts pounding in time with the soft crackle of dry leaves beneath your boots. You carry no swords tonight, only knives, bows, and the heavy burden of necessity. The target is clear. The merchant's camp on the edge of the next village, where rumors say they keep the stolen women and trade in secrets. As you near, the flicker of torches glows weakly through the trees. A few guards, careless in their routine, patrol the perimeter. You wait. Briar releases an arrow, a single, silent death. One guard falls, and the others hesitate, confusion rippling through their ranks. It's all the signal you need. You rush forward, fast and fierce. Flint's blade flashes in the dim light, cutting through the darkness, and fear. Chaos erupts. Shouts and screams echo as the camp scrambles. But you and your group know these woods. You use every hidden path, every whispered secret. By dawn, the camp lies in ruin. Few survivors flee, carrying the warning of Hollow Vale's wrath. You don't celebrate. There's no victory in blood spilled, only the grim knowledge that this fight is far from over. Back at the village, faces are grave, but eyes shine with a new fire. Tonight, you are no longer prey. You are hunters.
Dawn breaks over Hollow Vale, pale and hesitant, as if the world itself is unsure what comes next. You move among your people, wounded, exhausted, but unbroken. The air smells of smoke and wet earth, mingled with the bitter tang of iron. No words are spoken at first. The weight of what you've done settles like a stone in every chest. But then Ash approaches,
Her eyes steady, her voice low but certain. We showed them we're not helpless. You nod. It's a fragile victory, a message sent, but the war is just beginning. Whispers circulate of reinforcements, of harsher raids to come. You spend hours planning, sharpening blades, training the untrained, building alliances with nearby villages. You think of the child you saved, now stronger, her eyes bright with life. She is why you fight, why you endure. Flint is no longer just a name. It is a banner, a promise, that women like you, like those in Hollow Vale, will not be silenced, will not be broken. And when the next shadow falls over the woods, you will be ready, stronger, together.
Weeks pass, but the tension in Hollow Vale doesn't ease. It simmers like embers beneath cold ash. You train alongside Briar, her knife work swift and sure, while Thorn teaches archery to the younger girls, her eyes sharp with pride. At night you gather by the fire, voices low as stories are shared, of battles won and lost, of women who vanished into the woods, never to be seen again. There's a kinship now, forged in hardship, and an unspoken understanding. Survival is rebellion. One evening, as the sun sinks behind twisted oaks, a rider appears on the ridge, a messenger. His cloak bears the emblem of a distant lord, one who once overlooked Hollow Vale with indifference. He carries a parchment sealed with red wax. The village gathers, breath held. You break the seal. The letter speaks of uneasy peace, of a promise to halt raids if Hollow Vale yields to the Lord's rule. You glance at the faces around you, some hope, some fear, but most, like you, see the truth beneath the ink, a warning. You fold the letter. This is their game. We either accept chains or break them. Flint tightens her grip on her blade, and with it, the quiet fire of a village ready to fight for its freedom.
The days darken with whispers carried on the wind, rumors of soldiers marching, of loyalists eager to prove their worth. Hollow Vale shifts from a quiet refuge to a hive of preparation. You and Briar lead patrols, tracking movements through the dense woods, mapping routes to outflank any intruders. At night, beneath the silver gaze of the moon, the villagers gather. They share weapons fashioned from scavenged metal, sharpen stakes, and weave nets. Even the children learn to move silently, shadows in the underbrush. But fear isn't the fuel here. It's something fiercer. Resolve. One evening, as the firelight dances on faces lined with dirt and determination, Thorn speaks. "We don't wait for the enemy to come," she says. "We take the fight to them." The crowd murmurs, then nods. Plans take shape. Ambushes near the river, traps along narrow passes, and signals through bird calls. You feel the weight of leadership settle on your shoulders, heavier than any blade. But with it comes a strange clarity. This is no longer about survival alone. It's about reclaiming what was stolen: dignity, safety, and a voice. As dawn breaks, you stand at the edge of the village, eyes fixed on the horizon where the first banners will soon appear. And you swear Flint will not let Hollow Vale fall quietly.
The sun was just a pale promise on the horizon when the riders appeared. Dust clouds rising like smoke signals of war. Their armor caught the weak light, glinting cold and distant. You gripped your spear tighter, heart pounding, not from fear,
but fierce anticipation. Hollowvale's defenders were ready. Men and women who'd once been silent, now voices and blades in the cold morning air. The first arrow soared, whistling a sharp warning. It struck a horse, and the rider tumbled into the dirt with a grunt. Shouts erupted. You moved forward with the others, every step a beat in the fierce rhythm of battle. The clash was brutal. Steel rang against steel. Cries pierced the air, and the earth drank deep. You fought not for glory, but for the hearths behind you, the children, the elders, the memory of peace. Hours blurred into a maelstrom of pain and defiance. When the dust settled, Hollowvale stood. But it was only the beginning. As you looked over the wounded and the fallen, you knew the storm had arrived, and it was far from over.
The ground was slick with mud and blood, the air thick with smoke and the bitter scent of iron. Hollowvale's fighters gathered around small fires, tending wounds with rough hands and quieter hearts. You knelt beside a young man, his cheek torn but eyes fierce. "Will they come back?" he asked, voice cracking. You met his gaze. "They will," you said, "but so will we." Whispers of fear lingered like shadows, but beneath them burned something stronger, a promise forged in fire. Flint was not just a name anymore. It was a banner. You rose, wiping grime from your face, muscles aching, but spirit unbroken. The village wasn't just a place to survive. It was a home worth fighting for. Plans were made quietly, fortifications reinforced, watch rotations doubled. The women who once kept to hearth and home now trained with spear and bow. You trained beside them, your every movement a declaration. You were ready, not just for the next attack, but for whatever came after. Because in Hollowvale, survival was not enough. You would reclaim your life, your voice, your future, and no shadow, no rider, no dark would silence that. You would burn, bright and fierce, and this time you would never burn quietly again.
The night before the scouts were due to return, Hollowvale held its breath. No torches lit the paths, no drums beat. The sky hung low, swollen with silence. You sat by the river again, your place of thinking, of watching, of remembering. The moon skated across the water, silver and soft, but it did not comfort you. The trees were too still, the owls too quiet. Something had changed. When they came, only 2 of the 5 returned. One was missing an eye. The other had no words, only a scrap of cloth clutched tight in his hand. It bore the mark of the Black Hall, the symbol no one dared speak aloud. Ash cursed beneath her breath. Mare spat into the dirt. Briar, steady as ever, only said, "It's begun." No one argued. The Black Hall never sent warnings. It took. It erased. The council met again, this time under thick fog and tighter circles. You stood among them, no longer an outsider, no longer a girl. You offered your plan, not just to run, but to scatter, to divide and vanish, into wood and hollow, into legend and shadow. Some would hate it, some would call it surrender, but you knew better. Sparks don't fight the hammer, they escape the forge, and then they light the world. It was not a war you could win in a field.
so you'd win it in memory, in the stories they couldn't kill. By dawn, Hollowvale was empty. No screams, no fires, just the soft echo of feet on hidden paths and doors left swinging in the mist. When the riders arrived, they found nothing but smoke and a spiral etched into the ground beside the hearth. We were never yours.
You slept in pieces now. Minutes, not hours. A branch snapping in the dark could pull you from the edge of dreams into full, raw alertness, blade in hand, heart a war drum. But it wasn't fear anymore. It was instinct. Your new camp lay deep in the Blackwoods, where the moss swallowed sound and the roots curled like sleeping serpents. 5 of you remained in your splinter. Briar, Ash, Mare, the child called Linnet, and you. You made no fire. You drank from the stream only at dusk. You buried your waste, masked your scent with crushed pine and damp clay, and moved camp every 3rd day, no matter how exhausted you felt. Linnet never cried. Not once. She had learned too well already what happens to noise. But she clung to you. It was you who held her when she woke trembling from dreams she couldn't name. You who rubbed warmth into her fingers when the cold crept too deep. You who braided her hair in silence, trying to remember how your mother had done it, though your hands shook. One morning, Mare returned from scouting with blood on her boots and a torn sleeve. "They're close," she whispered. "How close?" you asked. She didn't answer, just sat down and started sharpening her knife. That night, you didn't sleep at all. You watched the trees, listened to them breathe. They were old, older than empires, older than names. And you began to wonder if they remembered, if they had witnessed all of this before, centuries ago, one cruelty giving birth to the next, like wolves birthing wolves. When the attack came, it came fast, a crash through underbrush, a scream, steel clashing on stone. Ash dropped 2 before you even reached your blade. Mare went down beneath a rider's boot, then rose again, bloodied but laughing, and drove a spike into his throat. Briar stood in front of Linnet with an axe in each hand. You don't remember the cut you took to your side. Only the heat, only the sound of your own voice, crying out not in pain, but in rage. You don't remember falling, only the hands pulling you to your feet. And then, just forest and breath, and the terrible silence that always comes after the blood has dried. You lived, again, but not all did. Ash was gone, Mare too. Briar was wounded. Linnet held your hand tighter now, but she didn't speak for 2 days. Then one morning, she did. She said your name. Your name, not the one the world gave you, not the one the priest muttered at your forced wedding. The one you chose, the one the veil knew, Flint. And in that moment, as the mist curled low and the trees rustled like old women whispering warnings, you remembered. You didn't just survive, you endured, and you would keep enduring, because they had stolen everything once, your home, your body, your name. But not this time. This time you were writing your own legend, one cut, one step, one breath at a time. They came again, not in force this time, not soldiers, not riders, but cloaked men with hungry eyes and knives that never gleamed. Mercenaries, the kind paid in meat and whispers. You knew what they were by how they moved, slow, like wolves, circling, testing the edges. They weren't hunting you. They were testing your fear. But fear was no longer your weakness. It was your fuel. You had moved deeper since the last bloodletting,
past the broken stones where forgotten gods lay buried, into the marshes that swallowed horses whole. It was the kind of place mothers once warned daughters never to enter. It was perfect. Briar's leg had healed, though it never quite lost the limp. She could still swing a blade, and that was enough. Linnet had stopped flinching at every twig snap. Now she watched, remembered. She would grow into something fierce. She already had the eyes for it. And you had learned to fight without flinching, to sew wounds while singing, to bury the dead without begging. You had become something they never expected a woman to be, prepared. The mercenaries didn't leave, so you set traps. Small things at first, a ruined boot, a pit of stakes beneath bramble. But soon they caught wind of your pattern, and so you changed it. Let one live, but only just. Let him crawl back toward his men with a story too strange to be trusted. Women in the woods, women who vanished and reappeared, women who didn't die when cut. You became myth, and that was your shield. Then one night, fire. Not yours, theirs. They lit the marsh, hoping to smoke you out like foxes. But they didn't know the land the way you did. The smoke drifted not east, but south into their own camps. The fire, starving for fuel, turned on the dry grass and chased them back to their horses. One of them screamed. You didn't watch. You led your people farther north, through the thick underbrush, over rock, into a crevice hidden by time and silence. There, Hollow Vale waited. Not the original one, not the village that burned, not the huts and homes, but the name. Passed from woman to woman, spoken in hushes, written in runes on river stones, braided into the hair of children born in hiding. It was a place, yes, but now it was also an oath. You stayed there, all of you, long enough for wounds to scar, long enough for joy to creep back in, shy and small as a squirrel in spring. You taught the girls to fight, to trap, to read the sky. And the boys, because there were a few, you taught to listen, to carry water, to cook with care and walk with quiet. And one day, years later, a girl asked you what flint meant. You didn't tell her it was a name. You told her it was a promise, that when struck, she would spark, that no one would ever shape her without fire. And when you were old, and you did grow old, despite all odds, you slept with a blade near your bed and your boots by the door, not from fear, but out of habit, because you had lived through the kind of life most only whisper about, because you had lit a path through the dark, and because somewhere out there, another girl was being told she belonged to someone else. But when she ran, when she bled, when she found her way north, you would be waiting, with warm bread and a name she could borrow until she made her own. Because the veil never died. It was reborn every time a woman refused to burn quietly. And the forest always knew her name. Always.